This is the Run Recap. Today was it's called the Boulevard. It was the first year they did it in Spokane. And so the race director for Bloomsday that Don Cardong had picked when he retired, the board of Bloomsday ousted him. The rumor around I'm getting this like third hand, so it's kind of like going through, probably through all the different runners and then through, mom and dad, and then got to me after that. So through the runner rumor mill here in Spokane is that he had ideas to modernize his Bloomsday and kind of bring it into where other races were going in order to encourage more people to join and just be, a different type of activity a little bit. And the Bloomsday people really did not like that. And so they ousted him like a year ago. And but anyway, this is the person Don Cardong picked to replace him. And then they got rid of him. So he then decided to put on his own race. So the Boulevard is downtown Spokane. It's 4 miles long it had 50 feet of vertical. So like basically it runs from Riverfront Park right down through like out to Riverside, right down through the middle of downtown, over to kind of zigzagging through downtown a little bit, but over into Brown's Addition, goes along the whole edge of Brown's Addition there, and then back, and then finishes right at the main where that water fountain is going into like the middle part of Riverfront Park.
Okay.
Like if you're gonna go from like right next to the Bloomsday runners, basically. Yeah, the finish line's right there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So cool thing with this one, first of all, it was the cheapest race I've done. It was only $25. They also then gave you a $25 gift card to Rosars. And a shirt's included. And so you come out like they're kind of paying you to do it. Right?
Yeah.
And it was a really well run race. Like well, obviously, he's used to doing Bloomsday, so he knows how to organize these things. So it's organized flawlessly. Like it was really, really good. Even the packet pickup was so simple. I went in, they scanned a QR code and handed me a number. Like it was that easy.
Nice.
So
he had some ideas about modernizing apparently.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like maybe we make things where we don't need, 6,000 volunteers to make something work, right? So
yeah. Wow.
Anyway, yeah, it was really, really good. And it was obviously there's not many for spectators for this one yet because it's a brand new thing, right? But they still had I heard 2,500 people signed up to race. So that's outside of Bloomsday, that's a big race. And it's only a 4 mile race too.
Yeah.
And then they had the prize money was, if I remember right, like $1,500 for the different category winners.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So then that brought in real runners, like people traveled to come and race, and they introduced them at the beginning of the race. It felt like this must have been what Bloomsday was like the first couple years, and we all see those pictures when like our parents ran it and stuff with, and they get to line up with the elite runners. And that's what got to happen here is I was 10 feet behind the elite runners.
Yeah.
And then I was no longer 10 feet behind him as soon as they started. But a couple guys, one of the guys, Nick Hogger he ran for Shadle a while back and is now a professional runner. He came and raced, and a few other people I didn't recognize the names of. But anyway, and he ran it, averaged 440 pace.
Oh, wow. Flying.
Yeah. So no, they were serious runners. I got 101st. I didn't run great, but I ran fine for the shape. I'm just not feeling great. So it was like, had I not been kind of fighting off a sickness, it would have been a little faster, but not drastically. So it was, it was good. I averaged sub 7. It was really, really fun. It was kind of fun to get to go out and race something with a lot of people that doesn't take up so much time. Like,
yeah, because that's the thing about Bloomsday, like it's like an all morning into the early afternoon type of race, right?
And with so many people there, you have to get down there, an hour before the gun goes off in order to get in decent position. And
Right.
so there's all that. Like if you want to get a good time down there and you didn't qualify for, special start time or anything, then yeah, you do have to get down there real early and you're crammed with a bunch of people. And then you take off and it's still then a 7 mile race. It takes an hour to race. And then and then getting back out of there is tough and parking's hard and all that stuff. We have all those things, but even just the mental preparation for it was usually when I go do an event, it's like you go do these things and the speed you get to run is kind of slow. And so it's fun to get to do a 4 mile race where I got to show up and then go hard the whole time, because it's like, well, it's only, right off the start, you only have 4 miles. And so, in no time I'm at 2 miles. Okay, 2 miles left. Now let's finish this thing now. And so it was fun to get to push like that. And the only bummer about it was I wasn't feeling good enough to push as hard as I would have enjoyed. But yeah, but still really, really fun. And through downtown, they kept enough turns going the whole time where it was just, you felt like you were basically in a sprint. It's like turn this corner. Okay, now there's another turn. And not quite like the point of trail running, but kind of had some of that vibe to it. The joy of trail running was a similar joy what this gave you, because it was just constant movement and you're going fast, and everyone around you is going fast. And it was really fun.
When you ran Bloomsday back in the day, like when you're in high school and you're kind of at your peak speed, what was the lead up to getting to a good pace right off the back? If you have so many people, and like back then, I think you had an advantage start, right? You're with a group because you qualified for a certain placement. Is that right?
I never did second seeding because I've never been when I used to be fast. We weren't actually supposed to run Bloomsday. So
that's it was always right. I forgot about that.
It's the week before All City. So, so I'd sign up for it because I'm, especially like, well, Buzz and I ran it one year because we were going to go to All City and stuff, but like we're JV, like it doesn't matter too much. And so what Tyson told us though, he's like, okay, I'm going to make an exception for you. You already signed up and everything. So go ahead and run it. But you have to be able to talk the entire time so you don't get hurt. So Buzz and I ran it conversation pace. We talked the entire way and ran it in 51 minutes. And I'd love to get back to that speed again someday.
Right.
But no, so we started in the fast group, but back then you didn't. So nowadays to start you have second seeding, which you have to qualify by a specific time in a specific race, and then the yellow is the next one before that or after that, which also requires a qualifying, but a much lighter qualifying. So that's basically for people that can run 8-minute miles or faster. And you either have to have done it in a previous Bloomsday or show that you did it you ran another race at a certain speed. But basically you can show that like, hey, I did 5-mile race at 8-minute mile pace, then they let you in. So where then second seeding is a little more stringent than that. Like there's specific races that you have to hit a certain time on. So they say, okay. Here's the 5 qualifying races. Bloomsday being one of them. So if I did run Bloomsday fast enough, then I can get into that. But that one's more like if you're running more close to 6-minute pace, you can get into that. So maybe it's 6:30 actually, because I was looking at it last year. I'm like, that's not out of reach. It's doable, but man, it'd take hard training to be at 6:30 pace for Bloomsday. But
that's especially for that run because you got that big hill in it.
Yeah, it'd be difficult, but it also seemed like that is attainable though. That's not a stupid time at all. It's something I could do.
Yeah. Have you done Bloomsday in recent years, like the past 10?
Yeah, I've done I did it last year and the year before, and I think the year before that too.
What's the start like? Because there's so many people. Is it hard to get a start? Like how long before you feel like you get a stride going?
Oh, it takes at least a half mile. It used to be worse. So when I did it in high school, Buzz and I were running through people's yards for a mile and a half. Just you were just getting like stopped and then sprinting by people, stopped, sprinting by, just try to get up to where anyone's running anywhere near what we're doing. And we never did catch them. Like we were passing people to the finish line, you know.
Wow.
So I never fell into a crowd that was going the speed we were going, because it was just because those guys were second seated, and you know, and so they got a better start than us. We were 1,000 people back when we started. So then, and they didn't do like nowadays they do a rolling start, which is really nice. So what they do now is mostly because things are chipped. They didn't, and so back then they weren't chipped either. So that 51-minute time was actually faster than that, because it took me, I don't know how many minutes to cross the start line.
Yeah, of course. Right.
You know, and so now with chipping, what they do is they everyone has a different start time. So you have the elite runners, they go right at whatever 9 a.m. or something. Then and the second seeding get to start right with them, but they're staggered back a little bit, but they get to start right with them, so they can try and race them if they want to. And then the yellow group, then they move us up to the start line after they take off, and then we get the next start. And then the next people after us, after we all take out and clear out, then they move the next group up, and then they have their own start. So, so for people that are walking it, they don't even show, like I'm done before they even need to show up.
Yeah. Right.
So,
right.
Which makes it so then no one's just sitting there in traffic. Like it really works and you do fall into your pace with the people you're running with within about a mile. You know, where I'm no longer outside of the only hiccup with that is they let Corporate Cup go right behind second seeding. And Corporate Cup doesn't mean you're fast at all. Some of those guys are real fast, and some people are just, they're on their corporate team, you know, and they're not.
Gotcha.
So I can be 2 miles in and pass a walker. Like, well, how'd that happen? Oh, right. There's your, you know, and then you can see their Corporate Cup shirt. Like, oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the only one where that, you know, where there's still like a little bit of traffic jams here and there with where they're at. So that's
that's much better than my memory of it. The one time I did it when I was 10 or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. The chipping, just the fact that they can chip changes how you can do those things, and it does make it so much better.
Yeah.
So that's nice. Where you can actually go out and try for a time, where you never used to do that. You're like, okay, this is not going to be a 12K PR no matter what, because you know I'm going to be 2-3 minutes off right off the bat.
What's your motivation to do all these little races?
You know, I was thinking about that halfway through my run today while feeling horrible. Like, what are you doing? What's the point? You know, because really, there's no point. I mean, I got 101st, right? No one cares if I show up or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter, you know, or anything. And so, no. So there's two things to it. One is I do really like the energy of racing, and it's the place where I actually get to go and see how fast I can go with other people around. So you can use that. You can pace off of people. You can do things. You can make little games for yourself. Like, okay, I'm trying to beat that guy, and you know, and things like that. Or with the smaller races that I do, it's even fun to like, okay, there's only 4 of us here. Let's see, you know, in the front, you know. Actually get to try and do that, and it brings back some of the stuff that I enjoyed from high school. I've always really liked racing. Like that's the part of running I like. And so it is nice that we have races of different levels to still get to have some of that joy with that. So I like that. I like the racing strategy. I like their strategy of racing against other humans, not just the clock. Is just, that's the thing I've always liked about running more than running itself. And because running itself is just, I mean, it's so good for you. I totally believe that we're just literally designed to do it, you know, like that is what we're made to do. But and if you stay doing it all the time, I think it's the best way to stay healthy. You know, obviously there's other things you can add to it, but if you're not going to add anything to it, just that alone, I think to me it seems like one of the key things that lines everything else in my life up. So then it makes me want the right foods. It makes me want, you know, it gives me the right energy level. It makes any other activity I want to do easier, and keeps me from getting hurt doing anything. So then as I'm getting older and I want to do other activities, I'm never concerned about popping an Achilles. or those other things that guys my age always have to worry about. And so um, it just, it's a great way to maintain. So anyway, so there's all of that, but I don't like any of that. That's just a benefit to like, okay, I'm going to go through hell on a regular basis so that then I can have this benefit. And that benefit seems well worth the pain that this is 80% of the time. And so the races just add this other game to it where it makes it more fun, where it's okay, I can do that. And then the other part too, in the back of my head, I just keep wondering, okay, if I really train, what can I actually still do? And I still have yet to be able to get. Last year, I was in a much better training rhythm to start to test that, and this year, life just hasn't allowed that to be as consistent as I wanted to be. But I'm going to get there, and as my kids get a little bit older, it adds a little more time to it. Yeah. But I just, I see guys. It was so much fun to run so fast a long time ago, and I think I get to still. I think I can still enjoy that. And so anyway, so I think that's it, and I think the races add motivation to that, and they add a bit of enjoyment to that. So
yeah, what you said about not liking it, I think that's a misconception that a lot of people have when they see runners or anyone into fitness. A lot of times is that this is just so much fun. Like when I got into going into the gym, because I've never been a gym goer or someone who lifts weights consistently ever. It was always a means to an end. It was in college. It was you had to. This is what you have to do for your sport, and so it's necessary. And then didn't do it for a long time, and then kind of educated myself a little bit, and at least started going to the gym a little more. And I'm like, I know it was the beginning of my understanding the benefit and how it can help me live a long time and be strong as I get older and whatnot. But I've never enjoyed it. And so then when Elise started going a lot, and then I started going a lot with her, and then became much more of this is just a necessity. This is part of like I want to alongside with running, in fact, but between running and going to the gym and lifting weights and wanting to feel strong, wanting to feel capable is really what it comes down to. I still never enjoy it. Like, ironically, I'm a trainer. I own a gym. I really don't like being in a gym, that much. As a job and helping people, it's great. But as a practical, like go in and lift weights, I just don't find it that fun. I've been doing it long enough to where I find there is a certain amount of enjoyment to it for sure. It's not just all I hate it completely, but the love for it in the moment, I would say rarely outweighs the disdain for it.
Well, and you have a certain level of fitness now for lifting that you probably, it's probably similar to how running also can be more enjoyable when you're, in good enough shape to where you can actually go kind of fast and you can get that smoothness to it. And I'd assume your lifting is probably at a similar point where it can be more enjoyable now than it probably has been at other times. First of all, understand what you're doing, but also having a level of fitness to where, you know what you're going to do. You know what this is going to feel like tomorrow. You know what the benefit this is going to do to you immediately. And
there's elements of that for sure. It feels much better than it used to, and there's that baseline but even the baseline though is purely looks. It's not, I mean, not aesthetic, not like my looks, but it's purely optics is a better way to put it. You look at someone lifting and you instantly judge the weight they're doing if it doesn't look impressive, which is often based on experience of what but I spent a long time when I was kind of coming back into lifting with just a bar belt, doing back squats with just the bar and kind of fixing form and focusing on mobility and that kind of thing. And that was mostly because I needed it, and I knew my ego needed it. I needed that check of, I know I can lift more than this. I also know this is what I need in this moment. And everything in you wants to do the impressive thing. It wants to do the weight that I know I can lift, or probably lift for a couple reps. but that's not what I need right now. And I think in seeing people, as long as you have your ego in check, when you're looking at someone in the gym, it's really easy to see what they're doing as not very difficult, or it must not be very, very hard for them because they're at a weight that you can do more of, even though it's at the correct weight for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, and I think there's a level of gym maturity that happens with that. One nice thing that I've experienced for the gym. Well, first of all, with the gym that I go to, there are several people that are competitive bodybuilders, and there's a lot of guys that can really lift. Like, it doesn't matter what time of day. If I'm in there, any time of the day, there's someone in there that can do more than I will ever even consider doing.
Yeah,
and
of course.
So it was intimidating at first, and now I think that the nice thing is, like, I actually can't do anything impressive in the gym.
Yeah.
Compare, like, for anyone else there. No, and so I'm always stoked when someone comes up and they're like, "Whoa, hey, I saw you do that. That was really good." I'm like, "Oh, serious? Because you look like Thor." And I was playing with baby weights, So.
Well, I think that's like you're saying, that's a thing that comes with maturity in the gym, is recognizing when somebody is working on something that is impressive for them. Kind of like skateboarding. You're having a session at the bowl and you can do a huge frontside air, and this person drops in for the 4th time that day, and everybody is stoked. Everyone's so excited because they did this quote unquote beginner move, but you're excited for their progress, right? And I think that's a gym thing right there that some people don't have, but a lot of the more mature gym goers have, where they recognize the effort, the work, and the journey, most importantly.
And any of those guys that are huge obviously have put in the work to gain some maturity. Even, like, I've noticed, even the guys that are still in high school, they've still put in the work in order to have humility and maturity and stuff like that. And they are, like, really encouraging. But it seems to go with that. Like, the bigger a guy is, the more it looks like that guy can lift, the better my interaction is going to be with that guy. You have less and less ego the bigger the guys get, for the most part.
Yeah, more often than not, for sure.
It's pretty.
But I think what comes back to what I was thinking about earlier was that what doesn't feel impressive for you oftentimes can look really impressive to someone else because of where they're at, or like, weight aside, it might just be the type of lift you're doing, and not even like a lift is too strong of a word, the type of exercise you're doing that looks, maybe it's just out of their wheelhouse. They're like, oh, that's unique, and therefore it looks impressive.
And we all have our things that we do, and if you, the gym stuff too, is so much is form related to, so the more you do it, the better you get at it. You might not have gotten that much stronger, but you learned how to do it better. And so now it does, you can see those things. Yeah, the last compliment I got there was doing, was it piston squat? Where you're doing one leg all the way down? Pistol. Yeah, I never was pistol or piston. Yeah. But anyway, so pistol squat. So I was doing those with not very much weight on a box, but going all the way down, both legs. And, but I'm holding, like, I don't remember how much weight I was holding in my hands. It was like 10 pounds or something, nothing significant at all. But yeah, that was the last one where, the 6'4", 300-pound bodybuilder saw me in the locker room afterwards. He's like, "Dude, I saw you out there doing those. That was awesome. Nice work, and, and it might've been something like, okay, well, yeah, that was impressive to him. To me, I felt like, okay, this is really hard for me. And I'm holding little, like, why am I even holding 10 pounds of weights? Does that really make any difference? But
right.
Like, I guess do body weight
because
at this point,
especially right. Especially for that exercise though, because that exercise is so based on mobility. Like, I can do a pistol squat elevated. I don't have the mobility to do it on the floor because I can't keep myself up. I have the strength for it, but I have to elevate on, like you're saying, like on a box or something. Otherwise, it's just like my mobility is really close, but not quite there to get it done.
Are you both legs? Like, can you do it? So, like, I can do it non-elevated. I can do it with my right leg. My left leg, I can't. Elevated, I can do it.
Yeah, I haven't tried in a while. I don't think I could do it on my on either leg on the flat ground. And so what I do is, because the ego in me wants to come out, I find the way I can do it that is impressive, you know. And this is usually just messing around. I'm not doing this in actual workouts or anything. But if me and one of the trainers are just you know, screwing around, I'll do one like on a Bosu ball or something, or add extra balance. Yeah. Or the other day, I think I posted on my Instagram a while back, I got one, just one, mind you, on the handle of a kettlebell. So I was able to stand on a kettlebell and do a pistol squat just one time on there without it falling, which is, you know, arguably kind of dumb, but also, yeah, I was pretty confident I wasn't going to roll my ankle or break my ankle on it.
Yeah, for sure.
What's your relationship with running where you're like, you want to be fast, but also it's so much torture, and so you keep doing it? Like, where does that love and hate settle for you?
It's really complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. I almost never want to run. Like that's really unusual. Every now and then I'll feel stretched out and I'll feel fast. I'm like, ooh, this is gonna be fun to go out and do that. But that's really unusual for me. Probably 10% of the time. And then the other 90% is just putting in the work. And I'd like to be able to say this in a more positive way. And well, I have two things going against that right now is so one thing with that, yeah, man, that's a difficult thing to even talk about.
Isn't it amazing how heavy that gets so fast?
Well, it is, because like, yeah, I mean, almost like you do it because you do it, and then that's what you just do, right? And then pretty soon that's just how you do it. But I got rid of it for a while. Okay, so this is where this hits here is so I got rid of it for a while. I got rid of running in any sort of competitive way at all on purpose, where I'm not doing any events, I don't do anything like that. Actually, I'd even not fully run on purpose, just because I felt like I wanted to get rid of that aggressive part of me for a while.
Well, and wasn't there a period too where you were struggling with the mindset of running, like that it's okay to walk on a run? I remember you talking to me about that a while back, like years ago.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So there was a bit of that. Like, I was definitely raised with, you never walk, period. And I think that was a really good lesson to learn when I'm 8, you know, because you have to push at all. You don't know where that walking is or anything like that, or where that's appropriate. So you're 8 years old. You always want to stop. So no, you don't stop. You never stop, right? And so got that. And I'd say even into high school was like, no, that's a really, you know, okay, I took off too fast. You still don't get to stop. You don't do that. You screwed up. Learn your lesson. You don't do this.
Mm-hmm.
Then with different types of running. So then in my 30s, I was running because I just wanted to stay fit for rock climbing and stuff like that. But I was really I didn't want to be competitive. I didn't want to let that back into my brain. I didn't feel like that was a healthy thing for me at the time. And so I was really going through letting that go away. And then it was really after Christy and I got married is that, you know, she basically encouraged me to like, hey, you can let this back in. There are places to be aggressive, and that's okay. And that's kind of been the next step that I've been going through for the last couple years is you don't need to tame everything down. And something when I got into rock climbing, I really enjoyed that gave me a place where I'm just competing against myself. No one else is even here. No one else is even knowing what I'm going through. So I can push really hard here, and it doesn't have to be a thing. I can just go do that. No one knows. It doesn't matter, you know, but I'm just doing that for me. And then now allowing that back in my life, because there's a lot of beneficial places for it. It's good for my job to allow some competitiveness there and some aggressiveness there. It's just good for a lot of places in my life right now where I think that I can handle that in a much more mature way. And so that's kind of what I've been on for now, about 3-4 years of letting that part come back into my life and finding where it's appropriate, where it's not, where is it useful, where is it not, and doing that. So then that's hitting all kinds of aspects. So I do it with my running is very much like I am trying to actually keep it. It feels silly at times because I'm not actually competitive. I just did a race today where I got 100th, right? And the guys in front, I literally will never be that fast. It doesn't matter what I do. In my 40s, I'm not running a 4-mile race sub 5 minutes. That's literally not going to happen.
Well, and you do know that if you were that competitive, like you ran like sub 7s for all on average, you could have ran closer to 6 if you had like that necessity within you to do it. Like you're in shape enough where you could have forced that to happen, I feel like, right?
I'd say that real seriously, had I felt my best, and if this was a race that I was like trying, like right now, this race is just something that's on the calendar while I'm getting ready for the race I'm actually trying to do.
Right.
And so this is just a workout day. I didn't treat it like a real race. I didn't go all out.
Exactly.
And if I were to push to everything, and line everything up right, then we could have probably 6:30s. I don't think I could have been faster than that. But in my current fitness level, I could have done 6:30s all out. And if everything lined up right. So do that. Yeah. But sub 5 is not a thing. That's not a real thing. That's going to be. So, but especially at this age and everything, I don't see anyone else my age doing those kinds of speeds really, outside of a few outliers. So anyway, so I think this wraps around to that is that I am using it in order to train myself to allow myself to be competitive and aggressive in a way. And even last winter, at the end of last winter, let myself bring that back snowboarding wise too. And which was really interesting to do. So some of the reasons you get rid of that is because when you are aggressive and competitive, you don't have as many friends. So and I like having friends. So it's like, so I really, especially in, so I used to tame down my running so I could run with more people. And I've decided like, no one wants to run where I'm running at, except for in the clubs I get to join. So that's fun to get to be around some people that want to do that, but it's not very many. Most people don't want to do that. And I'm not trying to talk anyone into it. I'm not going to bring friends into doing what I'm doing. It's like, if you end up there, then that's cool. But I don't.
There's a lot of years trying to do that it didn't end very well.
No, you just end up being mean to people basically, and you didn't mean to. In the end, you were mean, So So anyway, but I did let that back in snowboarding last year, with mostly because I was encouraged from a good friend of mine I was riding with, and we rode on my birthday, and you were there, and so afterwards, Drew told me, he's like, okay, so I didn't know you could ride like that. I'm gonna expect. So basically told me like, I'm expecting to see you ride like that way more. I'm like, oh, cool, okay. Yeah, we can do that, and it's not a style that he likes to ride, and I like riding with him a whole bunch. But basically it was like, hey, you can go do that and, be more aggressive like that than he wants to be. And we can still be friends. We can still go ride together. And so I'll go do something stupid. And then I can come back and do like the real technical stuff with him too. But kind of, he kind of gave me permission to like really push, and so.
Yeah, that's funny because that was he said that a few times. I don't think, maybe not quite in depth, but he made a couple little comments that whole day that alluded to that fact. And I don't know, when we ride together, mostly that's just how we ride. We ride that aggressive if the conditions are good enough for it. And so I didn't really notice that you were riding any harder than you typically do, because we don't ride together that much anymore. And so that it was an interesting comment to overhear. I'm like, oh, are you do you usually hold back? Like, what's going on? I'm like, I'm not riding my best because I'm not in that good a shape for it right now, but like I'm kind of pushing to where I would typically.
And it's not like I'm holding back as far as like, oh, I just don't want anyone to see how good I am or something like that's not,
of course.
It's not that holding back, but holding back with the amount of intensity, in order to be polite, and so,
right.
Yeah. And not make people feel uncomfortable and stuff. And then to learn like, oh, that doesn't make anyone feel uncomfortable. You can go do that, and I still want to be around people, which means I might do a thing real quick and then hang out, and people that were right with me are right with me. If not, I'll wait for people to catch up and then we'll, do the thing, because everyone has different speeds or different, how aggressive they want to do a thing. And so anyway, that was just really cool. That like kind of gave me permission to like, hey, you can do this and it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's neat.
We're still friends. So anyway, man, we sure talk a lot about those things of like the I think there's so much communication about people being in going into a place and being intimidated because they're not good enough. But there's not much talked about the person that is on the other end of the spectrum of there are certain races I can't show up to and run my hardest because it'll be rude. And so showing up to like a local 5K and just destroying everyone isn't nice. You kind of just look like a jerk, but at the same time, it's like, well, why not? And so there's those, I guess that I feel like that culturally, there's a lot of great communication about encouraging people that are on the newer end of the spectrum in order to come into things and being sympathetic to what they're going through and the uncomfortableness they're going through. And and I think it's healthy to add to it that we're all going through that to a degree, at all levels. It's uncomfortable and you feel out of place sometimes. And, whether you're, like we talked before about it, but what if if you were an Olympic athlete and your school is having a race for the parents, do you not get to join then?
Yeah. Right.
You should still get to join. And not only that, if you jog the whole thing, no one wants to see that. They know you're an Olympian. Go out there and kill everyone.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah, put a little bit of heat behind it. Find, do show people or let people see what greatness is to a certain extent.
Maybe don't break a world record. Maybe don't break a world record just because you don't feel like it that day, because that's work.
Yeah.
But going out and sandbag and make people think they can beat you or something, that's not nice either. You're like, no, we want to see. No, we know who you are. Let's see what you can do. Yeah. That's fun. And I feel like if someone has a problem with that, they're more showing their own insecurities. They're not showing, like, it's not a true complaint. And at least in my opinion, if I'm riding with somebody or if I'm running with somebody or something like that, that's way better than me, I sure would like them to completely destroy me. Like because I want to see what you can do. That's fun. That's inspiring.
Well, especially if the intention is not to do it together. Like there are a lot of days growing up where we're snowboarding and we're snowboarding with a lot of beginners. And, obviously you and me and Luke and Tyan or whoever we're riding with that are at a more advanced level can just go and, ditch everybody. But that's not the point. The point of the day was to ride as a group and ride together. So it doesn't matter that we're just kind of going slow on a mellow hill that's groomed. We can still make that fun. But sure. I think a lot of people have a hard time seeing where the balance is. Like, when is it just a together day, and when is it I'm going to go off and do these things by myself or with this group or these two people. But then on the other side, that kind of what you're talking about. It's hard to get past the feelings of the eyes of just when you want to do something, if I want to, and we've talked about this before, but wanting, like, I want to go do a backflip right now. Is it, why shouldn't I do a backflip right now? Like, I want to, it's going to look like showing off, but I just want to do one. If there are people here or not people here, that's just what sounds like fun to me. Should I hold myself back from just having fun?
Yeah. And that whole term that when people do that, call you a show off because you did something they can't do. And but I'd say from a heart level, I don't recall myself ever feeling Like that was my purpose in that. You know,
that for me, yeah.
I wouldn't say it ever has. You know, and that's not the point. It's like, no, I'm trying. I'm having fun. I'm doing the thing that makes this fun for me. And and I think that I don't think that's ever been said as not supposed to be a joke. But but it still always hits in a way of, oh shoot, was that rude? Was that inappropriate? You know, should I not be doing that?
Yeah.
You know? And
did I misread the situation? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Was I just a jerk? You know, because I did this thing I can do just fine, but you know, was that inappropriate? And I don't know. I'm of the stance right now that I don't think it ever actually is, because my heart's never been in that spot. It's never been like, hey, everyone look at me. I'd really like to do something like, hey, everyone look at everyone. And maybe my trick might be better than everybody else. Maybe it's not. It doesn't matter. I would like to do like the skate session. Let's all ride at an 11, you know, and cheer everyone's 11 on, because I'm stoked on everyone's 11, you know. So you might do a huge backflip off a thing, and then we might have another friend that survives the jump. I'm stoked on both those things, right? You know, no different than the skate park, a kid dropping in for the first time, same thing. Like, oh, if I have a friend that has not hit park jumps and they survive a jump, I am stoked. Or their first time hitting one at all, and they got up the guts to actually get off the lip of the thing, and that's it. That's still awesome, you know. And I'm stoked for that person too. We're all pushing what we're trying to do, and that's just fun. And man, that's the skate park is such a healthy place for what is good for humanity and activity and stuff like that. Like, there's so many dynamics there that are just so good for society and so good for people, and young boys especially. And I just absolutely love it, because you have all those dynamics are just so good. So the encouraging everyone to push their limits no matter where they're at, you know. And you know, you and I have been skateboarding quite a few times where there's guys out there that skateboard way better than we're ever going to skateboard, and we get to encourage them to push their limits too, you know. And then standing next to us is a kid, again, like you said, that's never dropped in. We get to encourage that kid and get stoked on that kid too, and we all just get to get stoked on where we all are at, and all trying to better ourselves. And I love that. And because it beats you up so much, and I'd say running and lifting, I've watched a similar thing happen. It's just not as much of a community thing, because you're not all doing that together as much. But a similar dynamic happens is the people that have put in the work are humble and really nice, and they might not show off, but they might do something incredible that you get to watch, and that's awesome. But when you know that person's humble because they put in the work to get there. They know why they can do that. They can't do that because of talent. You know, on those levels, you get the talented kid where like, oh, someone shows up and that's pretty amazing. They just dropped in their first time. But that's where talent ends skateboarding. Right? And then you have
especially skateboarding.
Yeah. Running, the same thing. You get a kid that's naturally fast, and in 6th grade, that kid runs like a 5:30 mile, right? And he may not have put in much work yet. The muscles lined up right. He's a smooth runner. He's been doing this for a while. So that always happens in 6th grade. Okay. But if he's running a 4-minute, you know, in the low 4s in high school, that's not talent anymore. You know, he put in serious work to get there. And that kid is humble. You know, even if he's showing aggression, or even if he's like, you know, being really aggressive as a racer, it doesn't mean he's not humble as a person, because he's put in the work. And he knows there.
Yeah. There seems to be, let me know if this resonates with you. There seems to be a difference in attitude and ego with things that happen quicker. Meaning, sprinters, 100, 200, 400 starts to peter off. Lifting, people doing exclusively 1 rep, 3 rep maxes. there's obviously a lot of caveats to this, but in general, there seems to be a correlation with a higher ego and a shorter burst of exertion.
Do you think it's because you could maybe, because you've been more in that world than I have? Most of my stuff has been endurance based, which means it took a lot of work,
Mm-hmm.
But you've been around that because you did a bunch of sprinting and stuff. And I've known pole vaulters also that went out there and could just pole vault. You were like that to a degree. You experienced some success without knowing how to do it yet. Your first year, without putting in a whole lot of work, you had some success with that. And I feel like some of those explosive things, maybe there's more talent involved than work to us at a higher level. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, do you see any of that, or does that make any sense to you, or do you, or does that sound completely like off base?
Well, coming from a distance runner's perspective, I'd say that all sprinting is just talent because they don't really work at all. I seen them out there. They're practicing their starts. You're running 3 steps. Come on, like you're doing that. then you hit the weight room. We don't know what's happening there. Probably just hanging out, right? Like that's Meanwhile, we're out putting in miles. Okay, we're actually working here.
Yeah. Well, but
no, it is. It's comical because that is from a distance runner's perspective. Like, I've been running for 2 hours, guys. What are you guys doing? And it never looks like they're working that hard. I'm sure they do. But anyway, it doesn't look like it.
And like as we've discussed before, it's a different type of work, right? It's a whole different skill set. But I wonder if there is some truth to time, exerting yourself for longer amounts of time, requiring it. I don't know. I don't know if I can put it in any scientific terms, but it just seems like it beats you down so much, and it takes so much more mental effort that you don't have any choice but to be humble. So for instance, like a bodybuilder type of person, bodybuilders aren't lifting 1 rep, 5 rep maxes. I mean, they might sometimes, but they're sculpting, which means they're doing a lot of hypertrophy and a lot of high rep sets. So they're doing like 8s and 10s, and then also 25s and 30s. Like they're lifting for 30 reps of a lot of things because they're sculpting
they're in there not pushing themselves like for hours. Yeah.
And distance runners are the same thing. Whereas sprinters, while the work is hard, it's so short. I'm going to run, and I mean, trust me, I've done so many sprint workouts. They are not easy, but they're just not a long exertion where they just emotionally beat you down. I mean, I've thrown up tons of times from a sprint workout, but it's such a different feel than destroying yourself for even 5 miles.
Yeah, well, and I think that the people that I know that are more in the ultra running, they also are experiencing suffering for such long periods of time, even though, I mean, obviously they're running way slower and there's a lot of walking involved. And it's kind of, some of those races are much more speed hiking, or for some people that are doing it, for some people, it might be very minimal actual running that's happening in some of those, but they are still torturing their body for hours and hours and hours and hours. And, whatever speed they're at, each person seems to be pushing themselves to the point of like, this is torture the whole time. And so so to even further, and I think that might be it probably correlates to the more suffering we experience that we decide to put ourselves through, probably increases how probably has a direct effect on our humility and our maturity and all those other things is probably where that helps us grow. I think it's in the chosen suffering is where we gain maturity, and that's where we get where we get the growth from, I think. That's what I feel like I've seen happen. Now, that doesn't mean just because someone puts in more miles than a person, they're more mature than that person. That just means that
no. But yeah,
maybe they need more work.
I think that point holds true, at least in general, as a general thesis. How often do you go for a run just to relax?
Never.
So, but like maybe relax is the wrong word. How often do you go for a run that is just to like, it's not for the workout purpose. It's just like, I need to kind of clear my head and get some time outside.
Yeah. So do that. Yeah. To like lower anxiety, straighten out difficult things to process. Yeah. That's probably twice a month, just because I'm on right now. I'm on a pretty strict workout plan.
Gotcha.
So because of that, because I'm trying to follow this exact plan, then it doesn't leave areas for, oh, my head's kind of screwed up. I'm having trouble dealing with this. I need to go on this type of a run. Because I look at my plan, I'm like, well, that's not the type of run I'm supposed to run today. So I got to do this other one. So not as often. That used to be much more normal for me, and currently, because I have speed goals here, then it doesn't lend itself to it right now. But a fun thing with that though, so Jason just got into running a couple months ago, and so so good friend of mine's never been into running before. I did not talk him into it because I refuse to do that anymore. I've hurt too many people, so I don't do that. I don't talk anyone to anything anymore. I'd say the benefits, and then here's why it's horrible. Now you make your own choices. So,
that's smart.
But we went for a run together the other day, and it was really cool because he's talking about how good it is for his brain, and he saw physical changes immediately. Like, because this thing just does that. Like, you want to change how your body looks. If you have a baseline fitness where this isn't going to injure you, where your joints are all working right, stuff like that, nothing straightens your body quicker than this. You might know of other things besides that. Definitely combining this with heavy lifting made the best results I've ever had. And right now my lifting's a little bit off, more on running, so I'm not looking exactly the way I want to. But when I put those two things together, especially, but running does, it just, your body changes quickly. And talking about how much better he feels, he's like, why didn't you tell me about this 20 years ago? I'm like, well, back then I was telling you about it.
I'm sure you were,
because I was kind of a jerk about it back then, but nowadays, like, he's getting so excited about all the things that he can do now, and like you can do just wait till snowboard season. Like, it's gonna be awesome because you don't get out of breath now, or you ride so hard that you do get out of breath, but you're riding way harder than you were before. And as you're sitting there breathing super hard, no problem, I'll recover in 30 seconds. No big deal.
Yeah, your capacity is just going to increase dramatically.
And so it's fun to see how much that can help someone's life. And then watching, a good friend of mine go through this right now, and and choosing to do it completely. There's no outside forces recommending he does this at all. He just decided to do it, and then all of a sudden, you see the benefits, and well, I guess this is what I do now, because this is too beneficial not to do this.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're a little bit biased, but aside from strength training, I think that running is the best thing you can do for keeping your body functional and young. But even though it's, like you said, you kind of have to have a baseline fitness to a certain extent to make sure you're not getting hurt, especially the older you are, the way you try to get into it. But yeah, I mean, it's one of the best things for our bodies to do. It just are, like you said earlier, they're made to do it. Like it's a core movement that we do since we're born. So why would you ever not be able to? The only reason people get hurt running or have issues running when they get older is because they don't do it for a long time, or they did it way too hard.
and there's probably some people have physical alignment issues that don't quite work right. There's outliers, I'm sure.
Yeah.
where this just doesn't work for them. But it does seem to me that anyone that stays consistent, they don't seem to actually have to ever stop running. The consistency is the key. So you don't have things wear down. Your body just starts maintaining so well. And
especially if you're doing a consistent, especially if you're doing a consistent mobility or strength training routine in addition to it, like then that's where the breakdown of the running really helps, or doesn't happen, rather, I should say.
I definitely experienced that last year, and I'm still in the gym once a week at least right now. I'm trying to do a little more than that, but I'm at least once a week to get that stuff because I did find that so beneficial. There's a thing in distance running I bought a tank top and what is it called? It's Rabbit is the company that makes the running gear. And in the tagline for this one, they're like, this is the this tank top fits you right around the arms for those that want to show off the muscles that are the most useless muscles in running. So basically, makes your biceps look good. And it's the one, and so funny. Among distance runners, it's a normal thing to say you don't work your biceps, and you're just adding weight that you got to carry. That's all you're doing, and there's no usefulness in making your biceps bigger. And probably similar things with shoulders and stuff like that. Like, don't train your upper body, because any added mass you do there, you're just hauling more weights. And anyway, so I think that's funny. And I was raised with that, like in high school when in cross country and stuff. It was we did lift weights. We did do push-ups every single day. We did, a lot of other workouts I think were really beneficial. But there was an underlying tone of like, don't get big though, And I don't think I was coming from my coach. That was just kind of like culturally, that's what was feeling, And anyway, but then my own personal experience is last year hitting the gym hard made a big difference in my running. I added muscle mass and lost weight. And I'm heavier now than I was last year when I was at the gym 3 or 4 days a week, and I was lifting real regularly. And I'm heavier now, but back then I was lighter and had more and had much more muscle mass. And anyway, I have found that just getting stronger is just better. That's it.
It's 100% true. There's a huge misconception that lifting heavy weights makes you big. It doesn't. There's a very specific body type where it does. Like, it is very easy for somebody to put on mass and size. But if you're inclined to run, you're not that person. You're not that body type. So you don't have to worry about it.
Well, and I was listening to what's that podcast? There's a body. It's more like bodybuilder emphasized, but there's a real famous podcast out there. But they were doing one on, but they were talking to runners in this podcast specifically, and anyway, so something they said on there that then it was like, oh, that's what's happening, is they said that running makes you efficient in one way, where your body's going to be very efficient as far as getting everything it can out of every bit of food and being efficient, kind of efficient, more like a Prius, right? So we're gonna sip on all the energy you're giving me because we need to make this last for a long time. So that's what that does. And then they said, but heavy lifting is efficient in the other way. It's efficient at burning everything instead. This is putting a V8 engine in you instead. So where a Prius is efficient at not using gas, a V8 engine is efficient at using gas. And so different types of efficiency. And what I found was by combining the two, my diet didn't matter as much because my body just started burning everything so fast. And I just didn't feel I needed to be as picky about anything. It almost like it burnt the crap that I'd eat and it'd use the good stuff that I'd eat. And it did both things way better than I ever had before.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, where right now I can eat a certain thing, my body feels a certain way. Last summer, it didn't matter as much. I felt good. I could put anything in that engine, and it's just gonna burn it. It's gonna burn it good, and it wanted to turn everything to energy, and quickly,
Yeah.
like we want energy, we want it now, and yeah, it was a cool experience with that, and then really like that hit home, like, oh, this is the way to do it, and so then I have to fuel way more, but as long as I am fueling enough, sure didn't hurt my my distance running at all. I'd still do hour and a half runs. It's still maybe half marathon was better than I expected, and I didn't need any fuel during that at all. Yeah, so it's not like I'm running out of energy, but it sure turned everything to energy so good.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows that the evidence for strength training, no matter what else you're doing, is just, it's always good. It's always positive. It's going to help you live longer. It's going to help you be faster. It's going to help you have more energy. Like, it's just, there's no downside to it. The downside from strength training that people have is always what you mentioned is, well, I'm afraid of getting big. But again, that just doesn't happen by accident.
I do love that, and maybe it's just my news feed, but I love that that message is getting out there to debunk all the stuff that women deal with, especially with that, where women would avoid lifting because they're like, I don't want to get big and stuff like that. And then there's so many messages out there from women that have gotten big, and they're like, no, it's hard to get this big. you don't
really hard.
So
yeah. It as much as the message is getting out there, it's a slow burn because I still get that conversation every day.
Yeah, you probably have that all the time, huh?
Yeah, but yeah, less and less. I feel like it is getting the prevalence of that of the gym rat mentality is increasing. So it's making it a little bit easier to talk to people into lifting some weights.
Totally, and there's so many misconceptions like that, and also that the eating disorder stuff seems to be not as prevalent now too, which is wonderful. People want to be not just skinny. Like the early 2000s, it's like everyone, males and females, it was so popular to just be skin and bones, and so nice that people are seeing like, no, being muscular is not only is healthy, but it's attractive, and you want to look like this. And I love that is changing around. Or I'm in my own little bubble because I just watch a bunch of like running and gym stuff on my Instagram. So now I think the whole world's thinking about this.
Right. I know. I think that unfortunately is often the case for all of us, but me especially, where I feel like, oh, this is for sure a trend, this direction. And then I like mention it to somebody and they're like, oh, I haven't seen any of that. I'm like, oh, right. Oh, okay. And you're like, it's not as popular as I thought.
Totally.
I thought for sure this is what everybody was thinking lately, but no, it's not apparently.
Well, it makes me feel good about the world to think that the world is going that way. So I'm sticking with it. My bubble is mainstream. And I'm just going to keep assuming that because it makes me feel good about the world right now.
There we go. And that's all that really matters at the end of the day.
Right. How much else effect do I have on anything anyway? So that's probably all that matters. So.
Oh, man. Okay. I should probably wrap it up. I got to go, I think.